So you're curious about Arbitrum.
Yeah.
It's one of those layer 2 blockchain things, right, that everyone's talking about, especially with Ethereum trying to get its speed up.
It seems like it, yeah.
It seems like these layer 2s are having a moment.
Yeah.
What we're going to do today is take a deep dive into Arbitrum, go beyond the hype, and figure out what it's really all about.
What's particularly interesting about Arbitrum is that it's not just talk.
Okay.
It's actually attracting a significant amount of attention and investment.
Yeah.
We're talking a total value locked of $2.385 billion.
Wow.
That puts it ahead of a lot of other layer 2 solutions out there.
That's serious money. Okay. So for someone who's maybe just hearing about this for the first time, can you break down what Arbitrum actually does?
Imagine Ethereum is a busy highway, right?
Okay.
Lots of traffic, things can get slow and expensive.
Right?
Arbitrum is like building an express lane alongside that highway.
Okay.
It handles transactions off the main Ethereum blockchain, which reduces congestion and brings those fees down.
Like a pressure valve for the Ethereum network.
Exactly. And the cool part is, even though it's operating separately, it still benefits from Ethereum security. It's like getting the best of both worlds.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I keep seeing this term optimistic rollup thrown around.
Yeah.
Is that what gives Arbitrum its speed?
Yeah, you got it. Optimistic rollup is the magic behind the scenes.
Okay.
Basically, Arbitrum bundles a whole bunch of transactions together and submits them to the Ethereum mainnet as one big transaction.
Right.
This bundling makes everything much more efficient.
So it's like carpooling for the blockchain world.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And the optimistic part comes in because Arbitrum assumes these bundled transactions are all good to go unless someone flags a problem. It's a clever way to keep things moving quickly.
Clever indeed. Now, you mentioned something about a bold testnet launch. That sounds intriguing and maybe a little intense.
It is a big deal. BOLD stands for Blockchain Operated by a Decentralized League. It's Arbitrum's experiment in making things even more decentralized by allowing anyone to become a validator.
Hold on, remind me again what validators do.
Think of validators like the referees of the blockchain. They're responsible for verifying transactions and making sure everything runs smoothly.
Got it. So the more referees you have, the harder it is to cheat the system.
Precisely. BOLD is about distributing that responsibility even further, making the network more secure and less reliant on any single entity.
So Arbitrum is all about speed, efficiency, and security. Sounds pretty good so far.
It's a powerful combination.
But I have a feeling our listener, like me, is also curious about how all of this translates into real-world value, or in this case, price.
Right.
And from what I'm seeing, the recent price action is a little bit of a head-scratcher.
That's a great transition, and you're right. The price of Arbitrum has been a hot topic lately because despite all this exciting development, the price has actually been dropping since March.
Which seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you look at other metrics.
Yeah.
For instance, the stablecoin market cap on Arbitrum has more than doubled since January.
It's true.
And its total value locked that's gone up by 50%. Those are some pretty impressive gains.
They are.
What's going on here?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. It seems like there's a disconnect between the technology's potential and the market's current perception of that potential.
So how do we make sense of these seemingly contradictory signals?
To understand that, we need to dig a little deeper into what's driving these price movements. And for that, let's unpack a concept called open interest.
Okay, open interest, lay it on me. What is that?
Think of open interest like a measure of how much buzz there is around an asset. Specifically, it tells us how much money is currently tied up in Arbitrum futures contracts.
So it's a bit of a sentiment indicator. If people are feeling bullish about Arbitrum, they'll pile into those futures contracts, open interest goes up, right?
Right. But in Arbitrum's case, open interest has been dropping alongside its price, and that suggests traders are getting a bit cautious.
Makes sense. So even if the technology is solid, if traders are feeling skittish, it can still drag the price down.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes. But here's a glimmer of hope. The central charts analysis you shared mentions that this bearish trend might be losing steam.
Okay, so a possible light at the end of the tunnel.
Potentially, though, we have to be careful about getting too far ahead of ourselves. The technical indicators paint a slightly more cautious picture at the moment.
Right, I'm looking at the charts now. Arbitrum is currently sitting at around 55 cents and cents. Pretty steep drop from its all-time high of $2.40 back in January. And those moving averages, the 50-day and 200-a-day, are both pointing downwards.
And if you look at the price chart itself, you'll notice a pattern called a parallel channel that suggests this downward momentum could continue for a bit.
Okay, so the bears might not be done with Arbitrum just yet. But hold on, even with this recent dip, haven't we seen some pretty optimistic price predictions for Arbitrum's future?
You're right, there have been, and it's important to factor those into our analysis as well. Keep in mind, price predictions are just predictions. They're not guarantees, but they do offer a glimpse into what different analysts are thinking.
Let's hear them. Hit me with some predictions.
All right. Cryptopolitan, for instance, believes Arbitrum could reach $0.76 by the end of the year. And looking further out, they're even suggesting it could surge to somewhere between $5.87 and $6.95 by 2030.
Wow, that's quite a range. What are they basing that on?
Their analysis seems to hinge on Arbitrum cementing itself as the go-to Layer 2 solution for Ethereum. They're betting on the entire DeFi and blockchain space going significantly, and Arbitrum riding that wave.
Makes sense. Okay, who else you got?
Digital coin price is even more optimistic. They're predicting Arbitrum could hit $1.08 by the end of next year and then climb to $1.80 by 2026.
So they're seeing a much faster climb. Why is that?
They seem to put a lot of weight on Arbitrum's rapid adoption rate and the speed at which the technology is developing.
Interesting. Okay, last one. Give me the counterpoint.
All right, let's look at Changelly. Their prediction is a bit more conservative.
Yeah.
They have Arbitrum reaching $1.86 next year, but then dipping back down to $1.29 by 2026.
Interesting. So they're seeing that initial jump, but then maybe some turbulence down the line.
That's right. Their outlook seems to factor in the potential for increased competition in the Layer 2 space. New solutions are popping up all the time, so Arbitrum will need to work to maintain its edge.
So we've got a mixed bag of predictions here, some bullish, some a little more cautious. What stands out to you about all of this? What factors do you think will really determine whether Arbitrum sinks or swims in the long run?
That's a great question for me. One of the biggest factors to watch is institutional adoption. If we start seeing major players in the DeFi and Web3 space choosing to build on Arbitrum, that could be huge.
You mean like if a big lending protocol decided to move all their operations over to Arbitrum, that kind of thing?
Exactly. That would send a powerful signal to the market. Another thing to keep an eye on is the progress of Ethereum 2.0.
Right. Because if Ethereum manages to solve its own scalability issues, that could theoretically reduce the need for Layer 2 solutions like Arbitrum, couldn't it?
That's true. Yeah. But even with Ethereum 2.0 on the horizon, I think there's a growing consensus that Layer 2 solutions are here to stay. They offer a level of scalability and flexibility that even a fully upgraded Ethereum might struggle to match.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily an either situation.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about the regulatory landscape that's always a big wild card.
Ah, yes. Regulation, the ever-present question mark.
Indeed. Favorable regulations, especially those specifically addressing Layer 2 solutions, could be a major catalyst for growth, not just for Arbitrum, but for the entire sector.
It's amazing how all these factors intertwine, isn't it? The technology, the market sentiment, the regulatory environment, it all plays a role.
That's what makes this space so fascinating.
Absolutely. But let's zoom out for a second and look beyond just the price speculation, in your opinion. What makes Arbitrum exciting from a long-term perspective? What are its real-world use cases?
One of the most promising aspects of Arbitrum is its potential to revolutionize decentralized finance, or DeFi as it's commonly known.
DeFi, right? That's where things get really interesting for the average person, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it can also feel a bit like a maze sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's where Arbitrum comes in. One recent development that caught my eye is Arbitrum's integration with PancakeSwap. They even launched their first initial farm offering, or IFO, on the Arbitrum network.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me. I know PancakeSwap is one of those big DeFi platforms, but what does all that actually mean for someone who's maybe just dipping their toes into this world?
Essentially, it means more opportunities and options for users. PancakeSwap decided to build on Arbitrum because it's faster and cheaper now that users can enjoy those same benefits, plus they get access to all the cool stuff happening in the Arbitrum ecosystem. It's a win-win.
So it's like this symbiotic relationship where both platforms benefit from each other's strengths.
Exactly. And this kind of integration is only the beginning. As Arbitrum matures, we can expect to see even more partnerships and collaborations that bring DeFi to the masses.
That's exciting. But, we keep talking about all this potential, but with the recent price dip, I can't help but wonder, are people actually using Arbitrum, or is it more of a wait-and-see situation right now?
That's a valid concern. But the data tells an interesting story. Despite the price dip, Arbitrum's network activity has remained incredibly strong. One key metric we look at is daily active addresses, or DAA.
So that's basically a measure of how many people are logging on and using Arbitrum every day, right?
Exactly. And those numbers have stayed consistently high, which tells me that people aren't just holding on to Arbitrum tokens, they're actually putting them to work.
That's a good sign. So the demand is there, even if the price hasn't fully caught up yet.
Precisely. And here's another development that has me really excited about Arbitrum's future: the launch of Arbitrum Nitro.
Arbitrum Nitro, right? I saw that mentioned in the research. What's so special about it?
Nitro was a game changer for Arbitrum. It's a major upgrade that significantly boosted the network's scalability and made transactions even cheaper and faster.
So it's like Arbitrum got a turbocharged engine upgrade. I bet developers were doing cartwheels when that launched.
You both lower fees and faster speeds are like music to a developer's ears. It makes building and deploying those next-generation applications much more appealing.
It sounds like Arbitrum is really laying the groundwork for something big here.
They are, and it's not just about DeFi either. Your research highlighted some other key areas where Arbitrum is making strides, like institutional DeFi, cross-chain applications, and scalable middleware solutions.
Yes, I wanted to circle back to those. I have to admit, those concepts are still a bit fuzzy for me.
Let's unpack them. Institutional DeFi is all about bridging the gap between traditional finance and this new world of decentralized finance. Think big institutions like banks and hedge funds getting involved.
Wow, that would be huge for mainstream adoption, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And then you have cross-chain applications, which are all about breaking down the walls between different blockchains, enabling them to interact seamlessly.
So instead of all these separate blockchains operating in isolation, we'd have this interconnected web where value and information can flow freely.
Exactly. It's about creating a more interoperable and efficient blockchain ecosystem.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about those scalable middleware solutions? That one sounds a bit more technical.
Think of it like this middleware is like the software plumbing that connects different parts of a system together in the blockchain world. Scalable middleware solutions are crucial for building more complex and powerful decentralized applications. They provide the infrastructure that developers need to create the next generation of dApps.
So Arbitrum is positioning itself not just as a platform, but as the foundation for an entire ecosystem.
That's a great way to put it. They're thinking long-term, building for a future where blockchain technology is integrated into every aspect of our lives.
It's incredibly exciting, but I have to ask, given everything we've discussed, that million-dollar question: is now the time to jump in and invest in Arbitrum?
That's the question everyone wants answered, isn't it? But remember, I can't give financial advice. What I can say is this: Arbitrum has a lot going for it. Strong technology, a growing ecosystem, and a dedicated community. But it's not without risks. The cryptocurrency market is volatile, and there are no guarantees.
So do your research, understand the risks, and never invest more than you can afford to lose. It's the same advice we always give, but it's especially true in the fast-paced world of cryptocurrency.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive into the world of Arbitrum today, from its technology and price potential to its long-term vision. We've covered a lot of ground.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating ecosystem with you.
Likewise, and to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Arbitrum. Remember, the world of cryptocurrency is always evolving, so stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.